What is up, my nerdy chicks, and welcome to the Polish Podcast. And in today's video we are going to discuss everything cute and fluffy, but most particularly dogs. I'm going to discuss what it's like having a dog. As most of you know, I got a dog a couple of months back and my life's been pretty hectic since then, so I thought today would be a good video to discuss dog ownership. So let's dive straight on in. And the fun of dog ownership so far is trying to film this podcast and him running around like a madman. But I've kind of solved the solution. We had a quick little play, but then he started to bite. And now I've tied him to the kitchen table in his basket. So he's sitting next to me while I film today's podcast. So let's start off with the tale of getting him. So Charlie, he's not our first dog. He's currently the fifth dog I've had in my life. We had our other dog, Rooney. He did appear in a couple of Nell videos if you look really way back. And he was a Springer Spaniel mixed with a colleague. But he died in 2019 and we haven't had a dog for over 3 years since then. And we've been wanting to get a dog for a while. But we all wanted to make sure we got the right breed and a nice one. And just kind of try and find the perfect dog for us. I know for a long time I really wanted a cockapoo, hence what led us to the search for looking for cockapoos. The nice thing with cockapoos, they don't shed a lot and they're really good if you're allergic to dogs. None of us are allergic to dogs, but I think we just wanted a dog there. We didn't have to hoover every day and get all their fur off. And we looked in a couple of places. I've most been looking at Pets for Home, which is a website where you can get some puppies, and also looking at rescue homes in case any rescued from any puppy farms or anything like that. And we were scrolling away and eventually we found the perfect pup. And it took some time to find the perfect pups online since we didn't really want to spend a fortune on a dog, as it's kind of bad timing / good timing at the moment to get dogs. It's probably leading more to a better time if you do want a dog, since obviously with the aftermath of COVID, puppy sales went on the rise. They went to ridiculous prices. I believe, you know, if you bought a puppy in the peak of pandemic time, they were varying between $1,000 to $3,000. And we didn't want to spend over $1,000 on a dog. That's just too much money. So we were looking around the $250 to $500 mark, since even if you did get a rescue dog, you are kind of spending at least $100 to $250 when you do rescue. You know, I am a big advocate for rescue dogs, but also at the same time, you know, rescue dogs aren't on the cheaper side still. They are cheaper than buying from a breeder, but they still, you know, if you do get one from a rescue dog, it's still going to cost you in the 3-digit number as well. But we found Charlie online. We found him on Pets for Home and he was £500, which we didn't think was too bad. And technically, he's only actually cost me $250 since I went halves with my parents. So me and my parents are co-ownership of Charlie. So we both went $250 each. And I actually found him on the Queen's funeral. Since we were watching the funeral, I had my phone. I was just flicking on Pets for Home just to see what kind of dogs they currently had up for sale, and I found him there and he was really cute and he was in this little basket. I'll see if I can find the picture of him, what it was on the website. He was just so cute and he was in this Fortnum and Mason's basket, and we kind of joked around saying this is the perfect dog for us because he's posh like us. And it kind of all led from there. But also at the same time, it was kind of funny because we had to ground down my dad a little bit because he was a bit like, oh, I don't know if we should get another dog yet. But he is your typical man's man that goes, no, no, no. And then the second you get him, he is spoiled rotten by my dad. He gets so many treats. He gets loads of cuddles. Like, compared to our other past dogs, all of our past dogs are turning in their grave for seeing how spoiled Charlie is. But yeah, he's a typical guy of going, no, we're not going to get one, and then he gets spoiled rotten by him 100%. But yes, it took me 4 days to turn my dad to go, yes, let's get him and go for it. And it's kind of, I wouldn't say ironic, but also really sad at the same time, because during that week I was dog sitting for my granddad. and we were meant to give back my granddad's dog on the Saturday, but we found him and agreed on the Thursday, let's go get him. And we basically dumped our grandfather's dog back a couple of days early to go, here's your dog, we want to get our dog now, so we're giving back our renter dog and getting our own forever home pup. So that was kind of funny. We had to drive quite a bit as well, since we're based in the Somerset region and Charlie was in the Surrey region, which is roughly about a 3-hour journey there and back. Drive up wasn't too bad since we used our granddad's house as a mid-stop to drop his dog back, but the drive back did feel quite long. But we fought for the price because it's £500 and he's the cheapest we've seen for a long time for dogs. Like a lot of the ones I saw for Pets at Home, they wanted over £1,000, which is just ridiculous for a dog. And also the other thing, I made sure to do research to find a guy whose dog's just got pregnant, or he just kind of does it on a side hustle for himself to bring in some extra money. You know, I didn't want to try and find like a person who is part of a big puppy farm, as that's just wrong. Same, you know, we did try to do for a rescue home as well, but we just couldn't find what we wanted. Since I'm always pro rescue, I think it's very important if you are going to get a dog, you know, you want to get a dog that is right for you and do it in the right steps. Also, the hard thing with rescue homes is there's a lot of paperwork. They have to come to your house, have to check the location. If you haven't already built those ties with a rescue home, it can be quite a long procedure. So I completely understand when people go to get puppies because it's a lot easier. You can just buy them and bam, you have a puppy. Where for rescue dogs, it's a lot of paperwork. You know, they have to check your property. You know, there's a lot of steps you have to jump through before you can actually get the dog. So I can completely understand why people go for puppies over rescue dogs sometimes, and sometimes people don't want to deal with if they have any past trauma. So it is a big thing of you want to get a dog that fits right for you. I think the most important thing when it comes to, you want to try and do it the most ethically you can. So, you know, make sure you're not buying it from like a scammer or from a big puppy farm and they're not put in poor conditions. You know, the biggest thing I think is either do rescue homes or just try and find like an owner whose dog's just kind of got pregnant, or they're just doing it as a little bit of a side hustle. So those are the kind of ones I would say you want to lean more pro to than trying to go down the more dodgy route for dogs. So the guy we bought Charlie from, you know, he's just doing it as a side hustle. You know, we saw the mum, and the mum is his family dog. And he said it's the second time he's bred her. He started last year, and he said he's been doing okay for a bit of like side pocket money for him and his family. And the good thing as well, from what he was telling me, his dog hasn't had huge puppy breeds, or he hasn't had a huge flock from them, which I also think is another kind of good sign, because I think if they're having loads of puppies, then I think that's also more of a red flag. He might be more of a breeder from like a puppy farm or something. You know, for Charlie, he only had a sister in his litter, and I think from the first time he did it, he said he only got 4 puppies, so he's not having like 8+ litters for when he's doing it. He's just kind of breeding his family dog and just making a bit of side money, which I think is okay. The guy was really great. You know, he was still learning the ropes of breeding puppies. As he was telling us, for the first litter he did, he fell in love with one of them as it was really fluffy, and he gave him the nickname Teddy and was calling him Teddy everywhere. And this went down really badly since the dog associated that his name was Teddy, and when a family came to pick him up, they wanted to call him something else. Can't remember what they wanted to call, but they got really angry and frustrated with the man since they had to leave the name as Teddy, as the dog associated that's what his name was. So they really got the help with him with that, since they wanted to call him something else and they got stuck with leaving the name as Teddy. Which I also guess is one slight perk when you get a puppy, is you actually get to name the dog, since for Charlie, this is the first time we've ever had to name a dog, since all of our other dogs in the past had been rescue dogs, so they already had a name. And I feel like Charlie's like a good name for a dog. I know probably for many people it's not very original, but I always said to myself, if I got a cockapoo, his name would be Charlie, hence the name. So yep, we had to drive all the way to Surrey to pick up Charlie, and The guy we picked him up for, he was really nice. He was really great. We got to see the mum as well, which I always think is another important thing. If you are going to get a puppy, make sure you see at least one of the parents, more importantly the mum. But if you can see one of them, then that's always really good. So we saw the mum. The mum is a Cocker Spaniel and the dad is the poodle, and the dad was a miniature poodle, which I thought was interesting since Charlie shouldn't really get much bigger now. The clips that are kind of shown here, I think that's going to be the size he's going to stay now, which is really nice as well because it's the first time for us that we've actually had a smaller dog. All of our past dogs have kind of been around the size of a Labrador, so medium to large dog. And the biggest thing I've noticed with having a smaller dog, and I 100% recommend this if you are thinking about getting a dog but you're worried about the cost of a dog, I 100% recommend to get a smaller dog, as I had no idea how much money we save by having a smaller dog. So food is the biggest one, of course. So our daily food pattern for our dogs are normally for breakfast they have a little bit of cereal, and then they get a slice of bread for lunch, and then they get a whole can of dog food for their dinner. Where for Charlie, since he's so small, we still give him a little bit of cereal, but it's half the size of what our other dogs used to get. For lunch, instead of a full loaf of bread, he gets half a slice of bread. And then for dinner, he gets a third of a can of dog food. So we only go through, instead of going through 7 cans a week, we go through 2 1/3 cans of dog food a week, which for cost-wise is such a huge money saver on cash. If I knew that when we first got dogs, and same for my parents, I think they would have got smaller dogs in the beginning, and I kind of think going onwards, I think I'm going to have Charlie-sized dogs going forward. The only way I can see myself getting a bigger dog is maybe if I've got like a really big house and you've got a lot of land and you want like a security dog, but I can't really see that happen. I think it's going to be flats onwards. So Charlie-sized dogs are the perfect size dog for me going forward. And also for kind of like grooming, if you have to put him in kennels for like an overnight stay, and same thing for vets, because he's under 10 kilograms, you get the cheapest fees, which is also a really handy thing to know. At the moment, he's about 8 kilograms, and I've kind of said to him, you can't go over 10 kilograms because then you get more expensive. But that's like a really good thing that I've never heard anyone ever mention for dogs. So if you are thinking about dogs and you want to kind of get the cheapest one possible, try and look for a dog that is under 10 kilograms. You'd be surprised how much money you save in the long run. But with getting Charlie, he was kind of spontaneous. He wasn't very spontaneous as we had been thinking, but it was very spontaneous on the day of like, oh, let's get a dog. I wasn't expecting when we woke up on that Thursday that we'd be having a dog by the end of the day. And we were a bit like a new parent since we weren't very prepared. All we had from our old dog was his old dog can and his water bowl and his old wicker basket, and that was it. We didn't have anything else. So the second we picked up Charlie, we found the nearest pet shop and kind of got all the supplies we needed. So we got him a collar, we got him a lead, we got him like a nice comfy bed, and then we got him a couple of toys and snacks. But it's very like new parent mode activated. We were in the shop thinking like, oh my god, what do we need to get? What do we need? This is also new and crazy what's going on and what to buy. So that was kind of fun for the first day. And he also did really well in the car. It's about a 3-hour journey for him on the way back, and that's probably not the first time he's been in the car, but it's definitely probably the longest journey he's ever done in a car. And he did really well. He did actually 10 minutes before we got home, he did throw up, but we thought, considering it's the first time in his car on a long journey, he actually did really well. And luckily we bought a bed for him and he threw up on his bed, so we was able to wash that, then having kind of vomit stuck in the car forever. But he's been doing really well ever since we've got him. We had to do a little bit of house training. We've had a few accidents here and there, but considering from when we first got him to now, so about 4 months, we're about 95% there, I'd say now. When we first got him, he was kind of peeing and pooing a lot in the night, where now we still do have to get up in the middle of the night to let him out, but he's not, we're not waking up and having packages left on the floor. The only times we notice if there's packages on the floor, he kind of does a dirty protest where if he doesn't get his way, that's when he will do it. But we're pretty much there, considering when we first got him to where we are now. He has come a long way. Same thing with biting and playing. He still does bite, but he does bite a lot less. The only annoying thing now, because all of his puppy teeth are gone, when he bites, he does bite a lot harder, but he's not biting as much. And the nice thing, because of the Cider dog, they're not overly painful, or all of his bites so far, that none of them have been aggressive bites. It's just because he wants to play. And even for the barking, he doesn't really bark that much. He only barks, from what I've seen for Cockapoos, they're, to a degree, I wouldn't say that they're the perfect dog, but I think if you want an energetic dog, they're a good kind of dog to go for. But the biggest kind of downside, the negative I saw on a lot of articles I read about Cockapoos, is that they're kind of very needy, and if they're kind of left by themselves, they bark a lot. And that's kind of the only times we notice when he barks, is when he does get left by himself, but that's not too bad. I mean, compared to some of the other dogs we've had, he's pretty well behaved-ish. But he's been fine. We've had a bit of biting here and there. You kind of have to be careful on what he has or what you've left unattended, because he will kind of go for it and just kind of do puppy biting and just rip it up. I've lost a few t-shirts, a couple underwear. Though, speaking of underwear, this dog, he is definitely a little pervy dog. He loves going for underwear unattended. You'll just see him do his little walk with it trailing along in his mouth. And that's the biggest thing that gives him away. He does this little walk when he knows he's got something he shouldn't have, and then he kind of does this little fun, spontaneous run/walk, and the collar kind of jingles the right way. So when you hear that right jingle jangle, you know he's got something he shouldn't have. And he actually went for my phone. Luckily, he didn't break the phone, but my phone case had one of the kind of slippy where you can put cards in. And luckily, he pulled the cards out, so he didn't break any of them, but he ripped off the little sleeve part. So you just have to be careful on what you leave unattended, as he will kind of go for it. But that's kind of the biggest thing we're still learning at the moment, is teaching him what is his toys and what are stuff that he shouldn't take. Obviously, from what a lot of you guys see, he loves taking nail polish. I'm not too worried for when he takes it, because he's not trying to eat it. He sees it as a toy to play with, because he knows if he takes it, I'm going to run after him and chase him. And that's kind of what he's looking for. He wants someone to just kind of play with him and chase him around. Though I am trying to stop him taking the nail polish, since he has broken one. He didn't break it on purpose. It's more when he knocked it off the shelf, it kind of fell on the right angle and it shattered. Luckily, it went on the wall and there was something on the floor, so it didn't stain the carpet, and the wall was quite easy to clean up, but that was a very close escape. So we're getting into the habit of trying to stop him taking the nail polish, and I've taken advantage of when he's in this stage, because I do want to make some videos when he's doing this, but I want to make sure this is going to stop in the long run. But we're getting there slowly with him. He's learning tricks as well. He can do sit, lie down. He can do stay and come as well. We're doing a bit more practice on the recall as well. The really annoying thing, all of our kind of dog parks, they're open dog parks, so they're not fenced off. And we really want to practice him off the lead, but we kind of really want to find one that's enclosed. So in case he doesn't come back to us, we can grab him quite easily. We did try in a big open field, which wasn't too bad, and he was doing pretty okay, but then he saw some birds and he went for them, and we was able to get him, which was fine. And I think we would be fine to do it in an open one, like we have done a little bit, but I think we just want that safety of if anything goes wrong, he's stuck, we can get him. We're not going to have to put lost dog posted everywhere. And I think we're also a little bit worried because down in England, especially at the moment, dog napping's quite high at the moment, and Cockapoos are more of the desire breeds at the moment, and he's still quite young enough that people could still take him. So we're just also really cautious about that as well. And I think some people think we're a bit too crazy about that, but you know, I take the dog napping very seriously. You know, we've had a couple in our area, and I think he's kind of the really nice breed. You know, he's small enough to pick up as well, and he won't. His recall's okay, but I think he's still very much he would likely go with another stranger. It's also the interesting thing that we didn't realize for the dog tags, you're not meant to put the dog's name on them, because if a stranger does find him and calls him by his name, he'll come with him. So we've put our last name on his tag. So that's kind of like another interesting thing I didn't realize for dogs. And probably also the same for you guys. If you've got a dog and you've got a tag, you know, if it has got its first name on it, maybe update it and put the last name on, since I thought that was actually a good idea. But we're getting there slowly with him. He is getting there. It's all just going to take time. And I'm sure in a year's time, he's going to be pretty well trained and well behaved. You know, compared to some of other dogs, he is slightly more well behaved. You know, we can actually take him out in places where before we couldn't really do that with other dogs because they wouldn't behave very well all the time. Where for Charlie, he's doing very well. And I think that's kind of just the slight pro of when you get a puppy, you know, you can put these information and knowledge straight away, where for rescue dogs, you know, they've kind of had that past trauma from whoever owned them before, and they're recovering from that. Because I think there's pros and cons to if you want like a rescue or a puppy. You know, I think if you've got like a rescue, most times, especially if you get them a couple of years older, they're already house trained and they're ready to go. But, you know, there's some other things you have to watch out. Like I was saying to my parents, the biggest thing I've noticed with having Charlie, because you haven't got that dog that's kind of already got that pre-trauma, they're doing like a lot of things like other dogs would, like a normal dog would normally do. Since all of our past dogs, you know, they never really were interested in playing with toys or anything, where Charlie loves toys, which is probably not good for our bank account. But it's also nice to have a dog where, you know, if you're going to buy him a toy, he's actually going to play with it. Since we wasted so much money over the years when we think, oh yes, well, let's get our dog a toy, and then he never plays with it. And also, you know, I'm quite comfortable letting other people kind of pet Charlie or kind of touch him. You know, he won't bite or go after them, where, you know, for all of our other dogs, we kind of had to be a bit cautious of kind of who hanged out with them, because it's very, very likely they might bite someone. Same thing with one of our other dogs. You know, one of the dogs, he was fine, but you very much had to play on his kind of time. You know, don't push him into play, because if you pushed him, then he'd probably bite you. You know, you very have to much go on his schedule. So it's kind of just the pro and cons of getting a rescue and a puppy. I'm very much, you know, I think you have to go on what you want to do and what you find and see, you know, because, you know, it's a huge responsibility having a dog, and it's not just like a week thing. You know, this is a 10-year plus responsibility. So I think it's highly important to get a dog that, you know, works on your level. You know, since for me, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. I think, you know, every time like I get up in the middle of the night or he will pester you, you know, it's been very rare for the last couple of months. I've had a full sleep from like 10 to 8 o'clock in the morning. It's very often like every couple of hours, either I wake up to let him out or he wakes me up to go let him out. And you're very energetic, you know, you're always playing. I think if you want to kind of lose weight or you want to get more healthy, a dog's really good for that, since we go out a lot more now and are a lot more healthy. You know, we play with him quite a lot inside as well. And they're a good pro for that. If you want to kind of get outside of the house as well, dogs are really good for that. But the biggest thing I hate about going out and taking him for walks is the other dogs in dog parks. Oh, they drive me absolutely nuts. Since I don't mind, at the moment, majority of the time, Charlie is staying on his lead while we take him for a walk. And there's other owners that are letting their dogs run around crazy. And we've had a few dogs that run up to him and trying to play with him. And we try and be a bit cautious about it, since if the dog comes up slowly to him and says hi, you know, we don't mind that. But we have dogs that are just kind of rushing at him crazily. The owner's miles away, not paying attention. You know, I've had to pull him out a couple of times and just kind of pick him up and get him away from the situation. As he's getting too scared, since I do want to get him socialised with dogs. You know, the ones I really like the most is when the other dog's on the lead and we can kind of do the nice, gentle, gradually for them to meet up and get to know each other. Since it's important when you have a dog that you need to socialise them with other dogs. But it really annoys me that you just have some of these owners that just do not care. You know, their dog's running around crazy. You can see it's stressing out the other dog, but they just say comments going, don't worry, he is friendly, whatever. But it's like, well, no, my dog's still a puppy. He's still learning everything. He's quite scared. This is freaking him out. If you want to meet him with my dog, that's fine, but we have to do it gradually, not with your dog kind of blaring in and going all crazy. So I get really angry and frustrated with those kind of people. And also the ones that just don't pick up the poo as well. Like, this is such a pet peeve I hate so much, since I know we're in the countryside and there's fields, but even in the fields they say pick up the dog's poo, which drives me nuts. I did see one person, like, the dog was running around, the dog pooed, they were miles away, I didn't see it. And I'll tell you what, they were so lucky that there was small kids around, since if there was no kids at them, I would have been going full guns blazing, shouting at them to pick it up, since it was absolutely wrong. And these people are just, I always think my biggest thing, if you can't pick up dog's poo, you shouldn't have a dog. And to be honest, it's not even that hard to pick it up, Compared to like Charlie, for how tiny he is, his poos are nice and easy to pick up. My granddad's dog, he's a big Labrador, and my God, his poos were horrible to pick up. But for Charlie, he is super duper easy. So I think that's the biggest test if you want a dog. If you can't pick up the dog's poo, then you can't have a dog. That's the number one ground rule. And what I've also noticed with having a puppy as well, considering for how energetic and like getting up at night, this in some ways has been like my first tester of what it's like to be a mum with children. And I kind of expect, if I ever have kids, the kind of comments and talks I've had with other dogs people, I wouldn't be surprised this is so far off to what other parents do when they talk about their kids. And some of these comments are just so bizarre and crazy. It's like, why have you even said this? Like, what do you gain from it? Since, a lot of people come up, ask like, how old is he and everything. And then we say, and then they ask like, oh, when did you get him? And I say, oh, we got him at 4 months. And they were like, oh, why did you get him so late? Is there something wrong with your dog? Why did you pick him up so late? And it's like, what? 4 months is not that incredibly old. They recommend when you get puppies that you should get them at least 12 weeks older. And all these people are like, oh, you there must be something wrong with him. And it's like, well, no, like, no one just didn't want him. I won't say no one wanted him. It's, I always say we're in a cost of living crisis at the moment. To buy a dog now, it's a lot of money for people to buy. And, we're lucky we're in a position we could afford a dog at the time. In some ways, if you have got the time and capability, this is the time to buy, as all the prices are going down. And, it's just all these people just going like, why have you bought a dog so old? And it's like, well, he's not old, he's 4. You've got dogs in like rescue homes that are like 3, 5 plus looking for homes. And I just thought it was crazy, all these people going like, your dog's so old, like you've got he's a bargain bin puppy. And it's like, well, no, he's still pretty young, he's fine, leave my dog alone. And even for like the dog potty training, there seems to be like this competition of like, oh, my dog was fully potty trained at like 6 months or 8 months or whatever. And it's like, a dog's a dog, like they will get there at their own time. Like probably same thing with children. They will, like, I just never see the point of like the competition of going like, my child or dog did this at this month and got it done. It's like kids work on, dogs and kids, they all work on their own time. It will all get done. I just never understand the whole point of like, my dog did it in this time frame or whatever. It's like, good for you, that's fine, but my dog's fine, leave him alone. And it's kind of sense of, I think people just have this sense of like they want to be superior over other people, and it's like, chill, like people will get it. People and dogs will get there in their own time. Leave everyone alone. But that's it. I think I'm gonna leave it there because I haven't realised I've talked for quite a long time. But yeah, he's doing well. It's quite nice to have a dog back in the household again. Like, it's nice if I'm home alone, there's someone else here with me. And he also kind of keeps me warm at night because he does sleep on my bed. And same thing on the sofa. He's allowed on the sofa, and especially when it's really cold at the moment, it's quite nice that he keeps your little feet warm. And he's just a big ball of fluff, and we love him very much. Let me know in the comments down below if you have a dog, or if you've also got any pets. Let me know their name, their breed, how old they are. And if you enjoy these podcasts, leave a comment, let me know. And if you want to stay up to date, make sure you subscribe. But most importantly, guys, just remember, keep being awesome, keep being amazing, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.